Hi booktube, Aaron here. Hope you're doing very well. Today I've got a fairly quick but long awaited book haul. I think about in September I decided to stop buying books for a while to see how it goes. I'd been up until that point in the year buying quite a lot of books quite regularly, and so I wanted to stem the flow of incoming books, which seemed to work quite well on the whole. There are a couple of grace periods for my birthday and around Christmas, although for both it was mainly people buying me books. But now I'm at the other side of the experiment, and I have, as a symbol of my liberation, I've bought a small pile of books. But the thing I found interesting, particularly when around my birthday I'd been given some birthday money, and so in that grace period I was using that birthday money for books, and sort of remembering that I had this feeling that I wanted to really make it count and buy books that I was really interested in, and felt like more of a priority. I haven't got to all of those books right away. In fact, thinking of it, I haven't actually got to any of those books yet, but they are all books that I do really want to read. I wasn't going out buying things on a whim, and I really came at it with a similar sort of focus when buying these books. I've been given for Christmas from my brother a £20 sort of gift voucher, so I wanted to use that on something that sort of mattered and I really wanted to read. And then for the rest of these, the same thing applied. And yeah, there are other things like using Waterstones stamps, so I was getting as much book for as little money as I could as well, which always helps. But it's just 4 books, or really 8 books, I think. But we'll get into why that is, and we'll jump into the first one. And this is an author that I've been hearing about for a while, and had never been 100% sure if she'd be someone I liked or someone that I want to get to. And so I've decided to give her a go, since I've just heard so many people talking about her. That's Clarice Lispector, and this is Agua Viva. So I'll read the back of each book to give you a flavour. In Agua Viva, Clarice Lispector aims to capture the present. Her direct, confessional and unfiltered meditations on everything from life and time to perfume and sleep are strange and hypnotic in their emotional power, and have been a huge influence on many artists and writers, including one Brazilian musician who read it 111 times. Despite its apparent spontaneity, this is a masterly work of art which rearranges language and plays in the gaps between reality and fiction. So I've heard this described as being a sort of collection of aphorisms, and it's a short thing. It's only about 90 pages long. So I'm looking forward to this and getting to know Clarice Lispector. And the next one, I was initially, I suppose, excited about this because of the name. But again, this one might have a bit of a story behind it. This is a poetry collection, and it's called Giant Moth Perishes by Jeffrey Nutter. Jeffrey Nutter seems to be a well-respected American poet living in New York, and I actually discovered him through Instagram. He's got an Instagram page account called Walls on Glass, and seems like it's managed by his daughter, And it's just, initially I just thought it was really cute that his presumably, I don't know, daughter in presumably her late teens, maybe early 20s, is managing this sort of poetry account for her dad. Um, and then sort of every now and then you get sort of bits and pieces of his poetry, and it was sort of, in a way, kind of reminded me of John Ashbery, and so I wanted to read one of his collections and see what I thought and see whether it was anything like John Ashbery, who I read for the first time last year and really enjoyed. There's no sort of synopsis to this. We've just got a sort of bio on the back saying that Geoffrey Nutter is the author of Cities at Dawn, The Rose of January, Christopher Sunset, Water's Leaves and Other Poems, and A Summer Evening. He has taught at Princeton, Columbia, NYU, the New School, and the University of Iowa's Writers' Workshop, and currently teaches Greek and Latin classics at Queen's College. He runs the Walls and Glass Poetry seminars in New York City. I think sort of since sort of COVID, those seminars sort of expanded to online. So yeah, interesting stuff. A varied, I suppose, a varied career there. But yeah, there's not really much to give you. The first few lines of the first poem, called The Fairy Queen. I sleep while reading and sleep while writing a poem, and I sleep while I'm talking or walking around the concrete spires and pylons of the fish hatchery or Nimbus Dam. So why can't I sleep while sleeping? Why must I count how many houses have a locust in them, or scan the columns of the textile manufacturers monthly for the price of bolts of silk from Shandong Sheng? Yeah, so it sort of has an immediacy. It's sort of one of those poets where the poems sort of very much feel like their mind, the poet's mind on the page. We'll see if that's so. So yeah, Geoffrey Nutter, Giant Moth Perishes. And then some more poetry. One of my favourite poets, where I've only ever read one collection by them, but it's relatively substantial selection or collection of poems. It was, and it's, you know, if it's over 100 pages, then for a sort of contemporary poet, I would consider that a decent poetry collection. And that's A.E. Starling's, and I'd only ever read Like, and had been sort of trying to get round to reading more of her poetry, and yeah, just never did. And so I picked up This Afterlife. So this is her selected poems, and we've got the A and the E being the, you know, beginning and end of Afterlife. Yeah, she's just something about, there's a sort of a quirkiness to her. She loves writing in form, but it never feels too laboured. And so again, we've got something on the back, but again, it's a poetry book, so it's not going to tell us too much. But here we go. The ancients taught me how to sound modern, A.E. Starling said in an interview. They showed me that technique was not the enemy of urgency, but the instrument. For her, technique is rooted in traditions of strict forms and meters, an interest that sets her apart as modern and American in challenging ways. For being on the face of it old-fashioned, yet ambitiously experimental among the forms she uses. Raised in Atlanta, Georgia, she lives in Athens, Greece. Her poems come out of a life's dailiness. As a wife, mother, teacher, an expatriate between languages, a brilliant translator of ancient and modern Greek. She also translates Latin, her most notable large work being The Penguin Lucretius, translated into 14ers. Being a poet in Greece entails, for her, being part of that world. She was among volunteers, helping refugees as they arrived in Greece, and their experience haunted her to write, "My love, I'm grateful tonight. Our listing bed isn't a raft, precariously adrift, as we dodge the Coast Guard light." The sharp quatrain commands the observation to memory. The poems, without self-indulgence or confession, are intimate as they address my love, children, or friends. And it was that sense of the poems, they're not self-indulgent or confessional, and yet I think they are intimate. Her poems on the whole do touch something deep, and you get the impression that someone's writing something that's really important to them and is deeply connected to their life without being too gratuitous, I suppose, in the way it's presented. So that's A.E. Starling's This Afterlife, her selected poems, which collects a number of her poems from a little earlier on in her career. So from her first collection, Archaic Smile from 1999, Hapax from 2006, Olives from 2012, then Like from 2018, which is the collection that I've read, and then Langyape, is that right? Langyape of Uncollected Poems, Lagniappe. So yeah, Uncollected Poems from 1999 to 2017, and then Uncollected Translations, which has some Angelos Sicilianos, the same guy again, and also a poem by George Safaris. Apologies for my terrible pronunciation of Greek names. And then finally, the last one that is one book and 5 books. I picked up The Avignon Quintet by Lawrence Durrell. So this is 5 books, and they are Monsieur, Livia, Constance, Sebastian, and Quinks. And I read his Alexandria Quartet, so 4 books set in Alexandria. They are just there. He one-upped himself. He decided to do 5 books about Avignon. So let's read the back. So here's the Avignon Quintet. Avignon, the realms of kings and popes, capital of the historic south of France, heart of legendary Provence. The entwined lives of a group of friends and lovers are transformed forever by the outbreak of World War II. But their dramatic present only plunges them further into the darkness of an ancient past as they become entangled in buried plots, Gnostic cults, religious rituals, and a mysterious hunt for hidden Knights Templars treasures. Consisting of 5 majestic novels, Monsieur, Livia, Constance, which was nominated for the 1982 Booker Prize, Sebastian, and Quinks. The Avignon Quintet is Lawrence Durrell's most epic symphony. So we'll see if I agree. I loved the Alexandria Quartet. It was initially it was a sort of a quiet win. I read them and they there was something to them that immediately was arresting, and yet they didn't blow me away initially, and yet each one seemed to stay with me after I'd read it. And yeah, those books, those 4 books, seem to haunt the rest of my year. So we'll see if the Avignon Quintet does the same thing, because yeah, I really enjoyed those other books by him. So there we go. That is my book haul. I've erred on the side of caution and of temperance, and I've only bought 4 books really, and they're all books by authors that I wanted to get to, that to one degree or another I find inspiring or I'm curious about. So let's do it. I mean, there's only 4 books, so it doesn't feel like much of a stack, but we've got The Avignon Quintet by Lawrence Durrell. We've got This Afterlife, the selected poems of A.E. Starlings. We've got Giant Moth Perishes by Jeffrey Nutter. And then we've got Agua Viva by Clarice Lispector. So there it is, a very sombre or sober book haul for the beginning of spring. And we'll see how I get on with those books, and for that matter, whether I get to some of the other books that I've bought or have been given over the last year or so. So I know I've read some of them, but we'll see. We'll see. So thanks for watching. If you've read any of these books, please let me know what you think, or if you're planning to read them, let me know. And for now, yeah, thank you very much. Bye bye.